And it's a lot to be able to give a child safety. And that's not a light position. I really commend you and thank you for that, because there was many talks of me and my three siblings going into foster care. I begged my grandmother not to put us into foster care. And she said, I can't do that because I don't want them to split you up. I want you guys to know.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's a reality.
each other, yeah. And the thing was, she knew I was gay. So she was like, I am not about to put you in foster care in the city. Are you crazy? And I remember, and this is the craziest thing, Joe, I remember being sent outside and the windows being open. And I remember the shouting matches she would have with my uncles and aunts, because they would say, it's too much. You're one person. You're a teacher. You're not a doctor. You're not a lawyer. You're not, you're a teacher. And she would say, it's because I am a teacher. It's because I see kids in my classroom. It's because I have to go above and beyond for kids in my classroom, feed them, bring in cots for them to sleep on, because they've been running drugs all night for older people. You see? So she was like, I am not about to do this to my own. We will find a way. And she did. And, so it's sad because my brothers and sisters, they blame her for things, but she was one person. And in all actuality, the damage happened not with her. We were left with my uncles and aunts. That's where the damage happened, because she was the one leaving the house at dark in the morning and then coming home dark in the evening because she was the provider. She had to work. I remember the hardest year of my teenage life was when I was 14, and my aunt caused a car accident with my grandmother. My grandmother asked her to slow down because it started to rain. I took driver's ed. We know that the roads are the most dangerous when it initially starts to rain, because all the oil and everything comes to the surface before the actual real rain starts to come down and cleanse the ground. And she asked my aunt was picking her up from work. She asked my aunt, please slow down. And my aunt gave her this, I know what I'm doing. I know how to drive. Don't tell me how to drive. The car starts spinning. They hit a tree before the tree stopped them from going into the Schuylkill River.
Ooh.
My aunt walked away without a scratch. My grandmother broke her leg in 3 places and had to take 2 years off from teaching. That was the hardest time of my life. She wasn't even in the house with us. Hardest time of my life.
I'm sorry.
But get this, she came through it. I'm sharing this experience because I'm talking to someone that deals with children. This story that I'm telling you, though it's mine, it is not as bad as it could be. And you know that. You know what these children are coming from. And it is not a joke. And I commend you for because you're not only a father now, you're still advocating for all of those children. And I know that can't be easy. And I know that's got to be expensive. You are still doing it. There is nobody to do that. And that's the thing. So many kids just wish. I remember even kids, like when you find out that they're in foster care, they're begging for stability. You see it in their entire, like even boys, they're angry, and people are like, oh, and the system goes, oh, well, they're violent. Well, look at what they came from.
Right. Well, and sometimes these kids are treated like criminals because they're going to a foster home and they're like, hey, can I go out and play? And the foster parent's like, no, come home after school. And they're like, okay. And the reality is, and I've said this to a lot of kids, the reality is they probably could, but the foster parents may not know how to properly say, actually, we're learning to trust each other. So how about if you come home on time the next 3 days in a row, then I will let you go out and play. Wow. And the kids, and in I swear to you, I feel like that's really what's saying. The kid's like, can I do something normal? And the foster parents, instead of explaining because I 100% believe that's what their mindset is. I don't really know you yet, so we have to learn to trust each other. Right. But it's hard to effectively say that. Mm-hmm. But I do that with some kids. As I told you the other day when we talked on the phone, I had a couple kids here because they can't find placement. And I have a rule in my house: if you don't help cook, you don't eat. So we will cook together.
Yes.
And if that's what it is. Even if it's as simple as chopping up some vegetables. So we made a shrimp Alfredo with Alfredo sauce from scratch with this kid. But the one boy was like, "Can I ride the bike around the block?" And he had been at my house a few times, and I was like, "Sure." And I remember his nurse came by to give him his medication, and she was like, "You trust him?" And I'm like, "I mean, the most he's gonna if he runs away, he runs away. Like I can't control everything that he does." But this boy now is feeling normal and riding his bike around the neighborhood and came back and threw his bike on the front yard. And I was like, "Okay, calm down. Like, put it away properly." But I do believe it's like trust is like a rope. You have to give a little for people. And if you're the one holding the rope, you have to learn to let go to give it to people. That's why I ask kids all the time, especially when they come in. Like I had two kids last week that had ankle monitors on. And
these kids are fun.
I'm like, I was like, we could go to Michael's and bedazzle that. No kid has said yes yet.
Right.
but we have wrapped that thing up in like a Ziploc bag with duct tape, and they swam in the pool because they just want to feel normal.
Normal.
I ask them all the time. I said, just help me understand how today's going to go. Are you a bad kid that likes making bad decisions, or are you a good kid that has made a few dumb decisions? And probably 99% of the kids will say, I'm a good kid, I've made dumb decisions. So when they start acting up, like I had a kid who kind of had a little bit of a meltdown, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to deal with this behavior. So I'm going to let you be for a moment. But when I came back to him and I was like, hey, can I sit and talk with you? And he's like, I guess. I said, all right. I said, I get that you're upset and you have every right to feel however you feel. I appreciate that you didn't curse. I appreciate that you didn't hit anything. I appreciate you didn't destroy stuff. Your behavior, even though you're angry, was still very appropriate. And that's awesome. And I feel once I say that, they're ready to listen to whatever I have to say. And we have it, and we were good, and we ended up hugging it out. And he was like, I don't apologize for nothing. I was like, well, I need an apology. And then it took him a couple breaths, and he was like, I'm sorry. We're good. And then we move on. But I don't know. I like working with the kids. They make sense to me.
Yes, I was going to say that. Like, you have an incredible amount of patience.
And I don't want them, but I have them.
Right. You have an incredible amount, an insanely incredible amount of patience, because kids going through things are very hard nuts to crack. Very hard. And your interactions, it's kind of like what I do too. I've done it so much that I've got to be able to get to you in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
60 seconds. That's all I have. And usually I have about 15 before you decide that you are not going to watch this. That's true. You know how to, and that's the thing. Like, as I'm sitting here, I'm a shaman, so I'm seeing things. Like, I'm seeing you work, and I'm seeing you insert supports. Like, as you're working with each kid, like, I've got to this, and I got to support this side and this emotion, and I've got to counter this. Like, I can see that in the realm of the spirit. That's a lot of work. You're a hero. That's a lot of work.
Well, shout out to anybody who's still listening and who we kept the attention for longer than 60 seconds.
Right.
Shout out to you.
Right. No, they're watching all of them. Joe, they're watching every single.
Is this live?
No, it's recording. It's pre-recorded.
Oh, okay.
But they're watching every single one.
Well, shout out everybody. Thank you.
Right. Because the story is so compelling. So compelling.
I think with human nature, you can look at everyone wants validation.
Yeah.
Why does somebody feel confident when they put that outfit on? They look in the mirror and that's their own validation. Okay, I look good, I feel good. And then if somebody gives them a compliment, hey, you look nice. To me, I feel you should always accept a compliment in the spirit in which it was given. I hate it though when people are like, I know. I mean, I get it. We're joking with friends and stuff. But if a stranger comes up to you and says, hey, I think you look nice, and the response is duh, or I don't know. It's weird to me. Like, just thank you. You just take the